Welcome to the Midnight Train to Sleepy Hills. We hope you enjoy your ride. We ask all guests to be aware of your surroundings, because there is danger in Sleepy Hills. Additionally, we will be releasing new episodes weekly, so stay tuned and please like and subscribe. Now, back to our latest installment. Beams of light showered the dusty parking lot. Margaret pulled up next to the minivan. The babysitters were looking after the kids, and she turned the cabin lights in the car on so she could apply a bit more makeup. While looking at herself in the rearview mirror, she thought to herself, it would be nice to meet up with Wendy and hopefully spend a night of dancing with Bruce. She could just imagine her body being squeezed by her man, how he would grab her and hold her snugly against his body. She sighed at the thought and would like nothing more for him to take her off her feet. "What is wrong with me?" she said, while continuing to stare at herself, with half her lipstick applied to her lips. "Well, maybe we'll get better if I land this contract at work. I just want to have a win. Why does it seem like every time I get a big chance, I just blow it?" Margaret thought of her past at that very moment, when she was still in high school. At this time, albeit it was math class, third period, John, a boy she liked, was sitting in the back of the class. The teacher was talking about quadratic applications as her eyes were slowly glazing over. Her focus went from the blackboard to John, and the look he returned to her excited her. "My dad needs my help to work on his truck." "That sounds neat. Would you have any free time?" "I should be free later today." "How about tonight?" "I think so." "Well, there's a movie I really wanted to see." "It's a date," said John. I couldn't help but laugh at myself. John's Trans Am was such a cool car. And it was really fast. The vibration of the engine could be felt in the leather car seats. The way he would look at me would cause me to form butterflies in my stomach. Tall, handsome, and rock-hard abs with a confident smile just made me melt. There was also something about John that got to her, and it was his free spirit. He could have been an athlete. Instead, he built his own motorcycle with the money he saved working part-time at the grocery store, a few blocks from her home. Instead of playing for the high school marching band, he started a rock band with a few other students. I said this with a bit of excitement in my voice. He was always a strong, silent type. It was okay, but the guy in the movie was a total wimp. The bad guy had no real reason to even go after the main character. "What do you mean? The good guy had prevented him from getting the treasure." "That is true, but the bad guy he found halfway through the movie made up for not getting the treasure, and if you say so, it just looked like another cheap way to make the movie 30 minutes longer." The breeze began to blow from the car window, and it started flowing into the car, which made the car inside a bit of an icebox. John was wearing his black leather bomber jacket and a pair of blue jeans that night. The polished 8-ball that was the shifter began to glow with the bright moonlight piercing from the windshield. The glow seemed to be contagious, and my hands began to shake from the cold, and my teeth were not far from behind. I couldn't help it but draw myself closer to John, feeling his hand wrapped around the 8-ball, and feeling the relief from my stone hands. Despite latching on to him and trembling with delight, John not for one moment took his eyes from the road. Margaret, what if I told you that I wanted to show you my secret hangout spot? Would you want to see it? That sounds like a great idea, she said. But at that very moment, Margaret pulled away from that memory and returned to the presence. And at that moment, she was just sitting in her loaner car. She slowly placed her hand on her heart. It was starting to beat quite intensely. A single tear streaked down her cheek as her heart began to pump faster. As Margaret was sitting in her rental car, she drifted back to that memory. John was shifting the car, and it roared with more life and speed. She began to massage the back of his hand and felt so excited and a bit afraid. Where John had taken her, she had no idea. Dozens of back roads and the forest did a good job of throwing her off her sense of direction. It shouldn't have been a surprise for her. But John finally took his eyes from the road only when he shut down the speed demon. Seeing my breath and his eyes were the first to greet me. He took my chin and he kissed my lips in that so-cold car. You know, you look amazing tonight, Margaret. I think you look handsome tonight too, Stud Muffin. A smile creeped across Margaret's face. Our eyes locked, and I got to get lost in his brown ocean. We must have just sat next to each other for hours or minutes. But who's really counting when you're sharing a special moment like that? My heart ached at the thought of swimming against a wavy night in that ocean where there was no exit sign. And to truly be frank, I wasn't looking for that sign. Instead, I fought to maintain my head above the water. The comfort of being shielded from this icy earthquake was black leather and strong arms. A streak of bright light shot across the sky. We walked along a trail long ago abandoned, but the leather protected me, and direction came from the shadow behind me. It was with some effort and a bit of pain gravitating from my toes, we reached John's secret place. A single park bench on a hill that was invisible to passerbys. And the view of the moon was not short of breathtaking. I needed something more than leather tonight, and we sat together on that very bench, staring at the blindingly bright moon. John interrupted the silence. I have something for you that could help you warm up. But it is strong. I trusted John, and I took the sip, and fire started from my mouth, and it ended up spreading across my frail body. The feeling of weightlessness showered me, but didn't consume. That night, I needed to be held. What are you doing? Bruce said. We're all waiting for you inside. Margaret blushed as she came to realize that she was back in her rental car again in the parking lot of the Barfly. Yeah, she blushed and she was just getting ready. Bruce smiled. Well, we're all waiting for you inside. Whatever she looked at, his smiling face, it brought a warm and cozy feeling inside. The smell of leather from that car so many years ago, the feel of it against her skin seemed like it was yesterday. Yes, Bruce, I'll be in there in just a few minutes. He smiled again and gave me one of his winks that melted my heart. She took another chance to look at herself in the rearview mirror, and the memory of John was back again, as if the tapping was the rain striking against the windshield. John's leather jacket felt good on me with the ride back. Why was I reliving this memory from so long ago, she thought to herself. Although she wanted to scold herself on fantasizing about something from the past sensation of warmth long migrated from her stomach and spread out, moving her eyes from the wet windshield and the long yellow lines disappearing underneath them. When she wrapped her arms around John's arm, it wasn't for physical warmth, but the closeness you can get from the touch. I didn't mean to keep you out so late, said John, with a bit of concern in his voice. No, it's okay. I snuck out so my parents don't even know that I'm out. As the car began to slow down, and as we got closer to my home, for Margaret, she didn't want this night to end. As she took her eyes from John and stared forward, a pair of headlamps beamed into the cabin and engulfed nearly everything in light, as all she could do is let out a scream. A sigh escaped her as she came back to sitting in her rental car outside of the Barfly. Okay, that is enough, she said, aloud, as she got out of the car. There, a few miles away from the Barfly, were footsteps. Oddly enough, no voices could be heard, as the footsteps were being taken, and it appeared that those feet were heading towards the Barfly. And that concludes our episode for today on the midnight train to Sleepy Hills. Please stay tuned next week for our next episode and follow the journey of what occurs in the town of Sleepy Hills.